Welcome to round 3 of the Tanso Racing Group Clark St James GT3 Season 4. This week we're at the fantastic Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the road course, as the guys are out currently practicing on track, getting ready for the start. So let's go and see how they line up on the grid. And here's the grid for the start of the race. We have Kieran Fletcher in first, followed by Simon Cheshire. Andy White and Harry Hartley-Price are on the second row, with Peter Duke and Oliver on row 3, followed by Scott Brown and Byron. Then Tim Reed in 9th, Ian Carmichael in 10th, Scott Kostrick in 11th, Baz Cutting in 12th. Then we have Tim Reed in 9th with Ian Carmichael in 10th, Scott Kostrick in 11th, Baz Cutting is in 12th place with Adrian Hatfield in 13th. That's the pros, and behind them in the AM division is Sean Atkinson leads the AMs with Mark Vero, followed by Sean Clark. Then Jay Rooney in 17th, John Johnston in 18th, and Martin rounding up the field in 19th. Okay, we catch the drivers as they come across the line, and Kieran takes them across the line down to T1. Now this corner is very tricky just to get us started. Sharp right-hander, very tight through there. They all seem to make it through safely, I think, which is really good. Oh, and Kieran and Simon Cheshire, did they come together? I had a bit of a spin there. Kieran's having trouble getting back in line. He does, but he joins way back in 14th by the looks of it. 15th, still getting passed by cars, as Jay Rooney and Sean Atkinson have a coming together just before entering the back straight there. Jay's off to the side by the looks of it. And as we carry on round, that's left Andy White out in front, followed by Harry Hartley-Price, Peter Duke and Oliver in 4th place. There's always usually a bit of trouble on the first lap of the Indianapolis road course. It's a bit tight in places, and on cold tyres it can be rather deadly. So as they come down the start-finish straight for the first time, we have Andy White, followed by Harry Hartley-Price, Peter Duke, Oliver's in 4th and Scott Brown in 5th, Byron in 6th, Tim Reed in 7th, Scott Kostrick in 8th, Ian Carmichael in 9th, and Adrian Hatfield rounds out your top 10 with Baz Cutting in 11th. So we have Mark Vero heading up the AMs. He's won the last 2 outings. Can he make it a third? New driver this season. A very capable AM driver. Whilst meantime, out front, Andy White got Harry trying to chase him down. Closely behind Harry is Peter Duke. Then we've got Oliver and Scott Brown are your top 5. 2 seconds back to Tim Reed in 6th. And there's your top 5 coming up the start finish. And then another gaggle of cars with Tim Reed slightly behind. Peter Duke takes them through T1, T2. Off down the back straight. Now Scott Kostrick is coming under a little bit of pressure here from Byron and Ian closely behind him. They take it over that tricky little curb there. Take off as much as you dare, but not too much, otherwise you lose traction and potentially a slowdown. Byron trying to find a way past Scott here. Very close, but he's in turn got Ian Carmichael on his back. But it looks like Byron's almost there on him. Byron chasing him down as we go on board. Oh, and Byron just loses traction there. He's got Ian Carmichael now on his outside. And Ian Carmichael now has an opportunity to get through. He's through. Ian Carmichael is now up into 8th place and Scott Kostrick is off. He's got a second gap now as Ian Carmichael benefits from that mistake by Byron and takes 8th place. Thank you very much. Whilst Peter Duke there skips across the curb, trying to stay ahead of Oliver, who's hunting him down rapidly. Now under 2 tenths thereabouts. As they come around the tricky section that brings them around and onto the banking, onto the oval section of the track, which leads into a tight corner for the road course as it swings round and takes them back onto the start-finish straight part of the oval again. Oliver's doing everything here. And did Peter Duke get a slowdown, or has he just tried to get out of the get Oliver out of the toe? No, he may have got a slowdown there, I think. So Oliver goes through, and Scott Brown is now all over the back of Peter as Peter picks up the pace. Once again, and he himself now chases Oliver down the back straight, with Scott Brown this time breathing down his neck. Andy White's running away with it out front, nearly 2 seconds ahead of Harry. Harry himself is 2.5 seconds ahead of Oliver. So this is the top fight on the track now for 3rd place. But Peter Duke seems to be losing time against Oliver now. Oliver's pulling away, whilst Peter and Scott back out a little bit behind. Going further back, Scott Kostrick under pressure from Simon Cheshire, and just behind them we have Baz and Adrian fighting over 11th and 12th. So Simon Cheshire in the tow, right up behind Scott. He makes a dive down the inside. Is it good enough to take the place? It is. He takes it, and nice and neatly there. Nicely played, but Scott has gone off. Scott made a little mistake there, off onto the grass, and ended up letting Baz and Adrian through as well. So that was an unusual mistake from Scott there. So Baz is now under pressure from Adrian. No fight like we had last week between Baz and Timo. Timo's not here this week, unfortunately. Now, a bit further back, we have the leading AM is Martin. He is being chased down by Mark. Mark, last week's winner. And behind them, they have the pole sitter who's just nipped in between them. Kieran trying to make places back up after that coming together right at the beginning. So Kieran set up close behind Martin. Martin desperately trying to get ahead. He's probably pleased with that, is Martin, because that means that Mark is now off of his case, and if Kieran just sits there, it's going to make it very hard for Mark to get on terms. But I think Martin will get a slowdown for that. Surely cut the corner there. Oh, Kieran dives in across him, but he is ahead, safely so, as Martin loses more and more time, and Mark Vero comes back into the picture. It's going to be a while before they get close enough for anything to happen. Let's go and see how Byron's getting on under pressure from Simon, who's trying to chase him down for 8th place. Simon Cheshire goes up the inside on Byron here. They're not quite ahead just yet. There's nothing in it as they come up to T1. But Simon does well there. Holds the corner. Forces Byron a bit wide. Byron has to touch on the brakes to avoid going into the back of him. And they get through there cleanly. And Simon's dropping Byron at a rapid pace there. Oh, it looks like Kieran and Scott seem to have had a coming together at some point there. They're now at the back of the field. That's really unfortunate. And it looks like Jay has not returned from the accident earlier on in the race. And poor old Kieran, after his pole position, has not fared well, unfortunately. So we go back up to the AMs. Am Martin is now under pressure again from Mark. Mark tries to get his 3rd win in a row, and Sean is desperately trying to get on the back of the trail. That's Sean Clark, followed by Sean Atkinson. Scott Kostrick now in the pits after that accident. Now further up the track, we've got Ian McCarmichael is under pressure from Simon Cheshire. So Simon, after that great move on Byron, is now gapped Byron by over 2 seconds and now chases down Ian Carmichael. Doing what we can here. There's plenty of overtaking opportunities, but you've got to be right close up on the tail, and you know, you can often force mistakes on some of these tight corners that need a bit of precision. And then as it opens up and you go onto the banking, is a popular place to dive down the inside if you're close enough, got enough traction, but not going to happen there. Can Simon get on terms with Ian Carmichael? He's very close. And is he going to do this lap to Ian as he did to Byron last lap? It very much looks like it. He is within touching distance, and he goes. I think Ian may have may have played nicely there and let Simon have it fairly easily in return for continuing on and maintaining that gap back to Byron, who's well over a second and a half behind. So probably sensible driving there if Simon is that much faster and Ian can't stay up. So we've got Peter Duke now in 4th place under pressure from Scott Brown. Peter's dropped right back off the lead 3. Andy White is 4.5 seconds ahead out front, and no sign of slowing there. Scott trying to put Peter under pressure. I assume Peter doesn't want to really drop another place if he can help it. So we've just got this battle going on for over 4th and 5th, and further back in the AMS, Martin leads the AMS, closely followed by Mike Vero and Sean Clark. So they are the top 3 at the moment in the AMS, and Mark trying to close Martin down as we come down the start-finish straight. Sean a bit further back. All concertinas up as they come around the 2nd corner and into the 3rd. Nobody's really close enough here to make a move. Oh! And as I say that, commentator's curse as Martin loses it and hands the lead. Whoa, and we have a few go wide. And poor old Kieran is caught up again through no fault of his own. I don't think that all happened so quickly. I think we're just trying to get out of the way of Martin after the mistake he made. Now Mark Vero leads up the AMS, a position he's used to after the last 2 weeks. Well ahead of Sean Clark, who probably got out of the way there of whatever was going on in front of him. And Martin gets a place back in front of Sean Atkinson. And Kieran behind there, desperately trying to make places up. He's doing everything he can. Can't seem to put a foot right, should I say a tyre right, in today's race. We hope he comes back and gives it another go next week, because he's certainly got the talent to be up there. But unfortunate, whilst we got some action, and Simon Cheshire is under pressure from his old nemesis from Le Mans. Remember, these two had a coming together in that race. And Tim trying to chase Simon down as much as he can. Now, bit back further out front, whilst Andy is 6.5 seconds ahead, Oliver has got on terms with Harry here. So as we come down the start-finish straight, we get 2 for 1 here. We've got Harry and Oliver and Peter Duke and Scott Brown behind them. So 2nd and 3rd are squabbling, and 4th and 5th as well. So whilst it's been a little bit quiet for a few corners, we've got some fighting back on, and the back end of that Porsche just twitched a little bit. As Harry tries to keep it ahead of Oliver. He's really tight on him now. In 3rd place, Oliver. He goes to push for the inside, nothing giving. There's too wise to leave a gap there. But Oliver's desperately trying to put him under pressure as they come back up onto the banking. And a sweet dive down. Back round to the pit entrance and out onto the straight. Oliver is pushing and pushing. Trying to get on terms. Very close now. With that toe, he's going to take to the inside. And he does. He does him on the straight. Can he hold it through T1? Yeah, holds it nicely. And actually starts to gap him already. On Oliver, looks like Oliver is away. Unfortunately, we see Kieran now entering the pits. Martin has gone in the pits as well. So I think they're suffering some damage, having to go in. It's only 20 minutes into the race. They won't be needing fuel just yet. Harry's trying to stay on odds with Oliver here. Not having much of it, unfortunately. Oliver's just that slightly bit faster and is starting to widen the gap. We'll see if that stays there. In the meantime, just behind we've got Peter Duke being chased down. He's got Scott Brown and Simon Cheshire. Now these two work together. They can get on the back of Peter Duke. They can stop from fighting themselves. Scott is now within 3/10 as we come into T1. Not quite close enough to make a move. But at the same time, he's got Simon Cheshire. Whoa! And Scott Brown gives us a blink there. That would have been very nervy if you were in Simon's shoes, close behind. And that may have actually put Scott off a bit, because Simon is really close down on him now, and he's through. Yep, Simon makes it through. Whereas Scott gave that position to him or not, he certainly moved out of the way. Maybe as a result of the blinking, I don't know. Blinking comes from poor connection, or just your ping rate going up, connecting to the server, and the message is not quite getting back. There's enough there to keep you on track, but the actual visual disappears for everyone else, not necessarily for you, the other end. Either way, it's quite disconcerting. Now we've got a little trail of cars from 3rd back to 6th, all within touching space of each other as they come into T1. You see them come through, and Scott Brown's on the back of those as well. Peter Duke right in the middle there. So Simon Cheshire trying to chase Peter down. Is within 2/10. We come through that awkward little chicane. Simon dives for the inside. Tries to say, I'm going down there, Peter. But Peter doesn't fall for it. Maintains his line, stays steady. And everyone gets through. Now, just to cover further back, all of the AMs are pretty spread out. We've got Mark Vero. He's 5 seconds behind the, well, not quite the last place pro, which is Adrian Hadfield. Kieran Fletcher is now back out of the pits. He's a long way behind. But Sean Clark is 5.5 seconds behind Mark. Sean Atkinson 2.5 seconds, and John Johnson is 11 seconds behind them. Jay Rooney's out, so there's only 4 AMs on the track now, and they're all very much spread out. It's about who makes the least mistakes to get that home. 25 minutes in, more or less. So just over 20 minutes to go. The only battle is this one. And we have Harry trying to get his place back off of Oliver, but at the same time being chased down by Peter Duke, who is under pressure, even more so from Simon Cheshire, who goes for a late dive down the inside. He's there side by side, and he's made it. He's forced his way through just by putting his car in the right place, quite frankly. Peter Duke didn't have a lot of choice there. Either it was going to be a coming together, or he let Simon through. So Simon is now going to be chasing Harry down. And Peter Duke has now got Scott Brown to worry about close behind him. So a sterling effort here by Simon, cutting his way through the field. Tim Reed dived into the pits. Bit of an early pit stop that, so I don't know whether that's for damage or whether he's decided to go in early for fuel and do a different strategy. I wonder if we'll see one of Simon Cheshire's late pit stops. Got himself a name for those after the last few races. Now Scott Brown. Let's go and have a look at Scott trying to chase down Peter Duke. We sit on board with Scott. Come out onto the start finish. Not close enough. Whoa, big bang on the curb there. And we just see Simon Cheshire just get through on Oliver. Oliver's gone into the pits. That'll be why. So that wasn't an overtake in the true sense. Oliver going in. Tim Reed is back out on track. So we've got a few pit stops that have been happening there. Let's see who's pitted, shall we? And who hasn't. So Oliver went in on lap 18, Tim on lap 17, Kieran on lap 13, we think, for damage though. So he may have enough fuel to get to the end, so he doesn't have to go in again, which will make up for it a bit. As Mark Vero goes into the pits. That leaves Sean Clark in first place in AMS. John Johnson be getting a nosebleed up there, John, in second place in the AMS. So Peter Duke's into the pits now, as is... I thought Ian had gone in there, but no. It's just Peter Duke. So we see the different strategies playing out here. Some going in later. And we are very much spread out. Simon Cheshire is 10 seconds behind Andy White, who hasn't pitted yet. Followed by Harry, who's holding up third place. Got Adrian Hadfield in pit lane now. Scott Brown in fourth, Ian Carmichael in fifth, and Byron in sixth. And Baz in 7th, but none of those have pitted yet, and we will get a bit of a shuffle round once they do. Interesting that Adrian and Peter both winning on lap 19. Another little group on lap 18. Yet the top 8 as it currently stands, none of those have been in the pits yet. As I say that, Byron comes in for 5th place, followed by Scott Brown. So they come into the pits for fuel almost on the 30-minute mark. There are some big gaps out there now. So we're just sitting on board with Simon Cheshire. Let's go around with our leader, shall we? Give him some airtime. Andy White doing a sterling job out front there. As Scott Brown, Byron in the pits. So Byron lap 20, Scott Brown lap 21. Byron on his way out. John Johnson now heads into the pits. So the top 5 must be really good on fuel. Andy White there getting caught up. Scott Brown out in front of Andy. That's not quite showing up properly on my screen. So Sean dives into the pits now. Who else is going to go in as well? That's Andy White coming in, I believe. Yeah, Andy White's in. I mean, Simon Cheshire's still out there, or will Simon's coming in. So the last couple of cars are in. That means our real race leader as it stands is Oliver, I believe, if I've got that right. With Peter Duke close behind. Oliver went in on lap 18. This will all sort itself out once Simon and Andy's now on his way out of the pits. So he will pick up the lead. And Simon Cheshire now is coming out. And we can see him at the end there on the right hand side. Yeah, so Andy's out, Simon's out. That's your 1 and 2. And then we've got a bit of a gap, which until Simon gets up to speed, we won't know what that real gap is. But it's around about 10 seconds, 10 or 11 seconds. That's amazing work by Simon. All the way up to P2. Late pit stop puts him in the right place. He went in on lap 22, the 2 lead cars did, for their pit stop. So that's very late stops there. Hasn't really worked for anyone else. We've got Mark Vero for AMS. leading the AMs, and Sean Clark 10 seconds behind there. So that gap is unlikely to close in the next 15 minutes. That will stay where it is, I should think. Sean Atkinson is quite a bit back, about 7 seconds back on Sean Clark as well. John Johnson in 4th. Baz Cutting at the back of the field. Unusual place for Baz, to be honest. He's usually up there, mixing it up with the best of them. So, well done, Kieran. It's got back up into 9th now. And he has got Scott Brown to worry about behind him. Scott trying to chase him down. Coming into the start-finish. Get a hell of a tow along here. But unless you're really close, it's a dangerous dive down the inside there. It rarely works unless you're well under a second between you and the car in front. So they'll probably follow each other around yet again unless one of them makes a mistake. But Kieran done well to fight his way back. He's seen more than his fair share of trouble this race. Okay, so that's all the pit stops done. We've got 16 cars left in the race. Let's go a bit further up because a battle is starting to brew as Peter Duke and Harry have got on the tail now of Oliver. Trying to chase him down. Oliver still holding them off. Just over 3/10 in it as they come down the back straight. They come through these S's, which will then bring them round that long curve that spits them out onto the banking. Short little trip across the banking. You look for your marker just after the 200 board, tight turn in. The little infield section then brings you back out onto the oval again for the start finish. No bank there really, only as you enter, and that's the tricky bit where you can lose the back end. Can cause chaos in some races as you come back round, especially if you've got cold tyres. Meanwhile, Tim Reed is giving Ian Carmichael something to think about in 6th place. Ian's trying to hold on to that as Tim sticks to him like glue. We come through that awkward curb and go flying down the back, short back straight this is, into the left-hander, through the S, and out onto the banking. Now, whilst we've been watching these two fight each other, I do believe Harry up ahead. Harry has got in front of Peter Duke. Tim trying to put his car as close to Ian as he can. I don't think he's going to be close enough for anything on T1 here. The gap is coming down rapidly, but it's not going to be enough. Maybe next time round. As Tim backs off a little bit through the first section of corners. Another opportunity here if he can get good traction. And he does. That Porsche twitching. But it's fired like a bullet out of there. And Tim dives for the outside, makes the inside, and makes a fantastic pass on Ian. But can he hold it? That's still up for debate. They're still fighting. Oh, it's a really close fight, this. Ian goes a bit wide. I think he touched the grass, lost some traction. That lets him through into 6th. Fantastic fight, guys. Now, Tim's going to try and put some space between him and Ian so he doesn't get an invite back. But I don't think Ian's close enough. He's getting close, but not close enough to make any impact on Tim this time around. We'll just stick with them as we go back down the back straight. See if Ian can get some traction going over this curb and out down this short straight. But I think, yeah, Tim again just increases the gap, if anything. Right, not a fight for position as such, but further back we've got Adrian Hatfield trying to make his way through the field and get back on terms. But he's good 6/10 down. Meanwhile, we've got Simon Cheshire all on his lonesome. 16 seconds back to Oliver, who's now under pressure from Harry. Harry's had enough of sitting in 4th place. He wants that 3rd place again. He's just not close enough to do anything there. But he is in touch. And he dives down the inside. And has he held it? He has. He's through into 3rd place. And he's off. So Harry's been released. And we'll now try and close that gap down to Oliver. Sorry to Simon. Oliver's a second behind. But it's 18 seconds, so I don't think that's going to happen. But Peter Duke is trying to get on the back of Oliver. But further back we have Ian trying to grab that place back off of Tim Reed. We've got 2.5 minutes to go. It's just under 1.5 minutes a lap. So a couple of laps at most here. Andy White is his lead's not as commanding as it once was, but it's around 4 seconds. Unlikely that Simon's going to close that down as we watch Ian try to get 6th place back off of Tim. Tim's not giving up that hard-earned place easily, and actually starts to pull away a bit, if anything. So just up ahead, 3 cars, Peter Duke, Oliver and Harry. Not as close as they look when we look out front. But now the gap now for Ian has stretched itself out, and we're down to nearly a minute to go. We're right on board with Andy White as he comes through T1. Had a very good race as Andy. Kept it clean. Stayed out of trouble. Made the most out of other people's mistakes, really. Sometimes that's all it takes, is make one less mistake than your opponents. Can give you the win. As he comes round there to lap John Johnson, I believe. And we come up over the line for the last time, and Andy White takes it from Simon Cheshire in second place, and a good 20 seconds behind is Harry. So just watch him come through onto the banking. Well placed there, Harry in third. Oliver just behind in fourth. Well done, Oliver. Peter Duke there in fifth. Tim Reed, Ian Carmichael, and 3 seconds behind is Byron, and Kieran gets back up into ninth. Well done. And Scott Brown in 10th. Adrian Hatfield has already crossed the line and out in 14th here overall, but they're a lap behind there. So we're back to Mark Vero, who takes the AMS, with Sean Clark coming in across the line in second, and Sean Atkinson takes us through. So, and that's your race, guys. Let's have a look at the results. In the pros, we have Andy White with a great win there from Simon Cheshire, Harry in third, Oliver in fourth, Peter Duke in fifth, Tim takes sixth, Ian Carmichael in seventh, Byron in eighth, Kieran in ninth. Good fight back, really, from that early coming together. Scott Brown in 10th, Adrian in 11th, Baz Cutting in 12th. Scott Kostrick, unfortunately, didn't finish back there in 13th. We go across to the AM results. Only 6 runners in AM, and of those, only 4 finished, with Mark Vero taking yet another win. Second place to Sean Clark. Sean Atkinson in third, John Johnson in fourth, and Martin and Jay did not finish the race. So thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope you enjoyed that race. We'll be back again next week. Please like and subscribe, and come and join us for more racing fun. I believe we're at Barcelona, the historic version. That should be up for a good race. So until then, good racing. See you all soon. Thank you.